जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे जय राधा माधव राधे जय पंचतत्व जय पंचतत्व जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा देवी जय सुदर्शन जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिवार जगच्चार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद इस डिवाइन ग्रेस ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय ब्रह्मा मध्व गौड़े आचार्य वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय गंगा माई की जय यमुना माई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय सामवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru Van Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Answers by citing the Lord's verse, text 43. Tuṣṭaṁ niśāmya pitaram lokānāṁ prapitāmaham devarṣiḥ paripapraccha bhavān mānupṛcchati tuṣṭaṁ niśāmya pitaram lokānām prapitāmaham devarṣiḥ paripapraccha bhavān mānupṛcchati Vaishnavis. Tuṣṭam, satisfied. Niśāmya, after seeing. Pitaram, the father. Lokānāṁ, of the whole universe. Paripapraccha, the great grandfather. Devarṣiḥ, the great sage Nārada. Paripapraccha, inquired. Bhavān, yourself. Yat, as it is. Ma, from me. Anupṛcchati, inquiring. Translation. The great sage Nārada also inquired in detail from his father Brahmā, the great grandfather of all the universe, after seeing him well satisfied. Purport. The process of understanding spiritual or transcendental knowledge from the realized person is not exactly like asking an ordinary question from the schoolmaster. The schoolmasters in the modern days are paid agents for giving some information, but the spiritual master is not a paid agent, nor can he impart instruction without being authorized. In the Bhagavad-gītā 4:34, the process of understanding transcendental knowledge is directed as follows. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upatekshante te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Arjuna was advised to receive transcendental knowledge from the realized person by surrender, questions, and service. Receiving transcendental knowledge is not like exchanging dollars. Such knowledge has to be received by service to the spiritual master. As Brahmaji received the knowledge directly from the Lord by satisfying him fully, similarly, one has to receive the transcendental knowledge from the spiritual master by satisfying him. The spiritual master's satisfaction is the means of assimilating transcendental knowledge. One cannot understand transcendental knowledge simply by becoming a grammarian. The Vedas declare, Svetasvatara Upanishad 6:23, Yasya deva para bhaktir yata deve tata gurau tasyaite kathaita hi artha prakashante mahatmanaha. Only unto who has unflinching devotion to the Lord and to the spiritual master does transcendental knowledge become automatically revealed. Such relationship between the disciple and the spiritual master is eternal. One who is now the disciple is the next spiritual master, and one cannot be a bona fide and authorized spiritual master unless one has been strictly obedient to his spiritual master. Brahmaji, as a disciple of the Supreme Lord, received the real knowledge and imparted it to his dear disciple Nārada. And similarly, Nārada, as spiritual master, handed over this knowledge to Vyasa, and so on. Therefore, the so-called formal spiritual master and disciple are not facsimiles of Brahma and Nārada or Nārada and Vyasa. The relationship between Brahma and Nārada is reality, while the so-called formality is the relationship between the cheater and cheated. It is clearly mentioned herewith that Nārada is not only well-behaved, meek, and obedient, but also self-controlled. One who is not self-controlled, specifically in sex life, can become neither a disciple nor a spiritual master. One must have disciplinary training in controlling speaking, anger, the tongue, the mind, the belly, and the genitals. One who has controlled the particular senses mentioned above is called Goswami. Without becoming a Goswami, one can become neither a disciple nor a spiritual master. The so-called spiritual master without sense control is certainly the cheater, and the disciple of such a so-called spiritual master is the cheated. One should not think of Brahmaji as a dead great-grandfather, as we have experienced on this planet. He is the oldest great-grandfather, and he is still living. And Nārada is also living. The age of the inhabitants of Brahmaloka planet is mentioned in Bhagavad-gītā. The inhabitants of this small planet Earth can hardly calculate even the duration of one day of Brahma. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatharo Vaishya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the chapter overview, chapter 9, starts with Brahma's appearance on the lotus flower. And Brahma is trying to find the origin of his lotus, and he is not knowing how to create. He is not knowing how to do his service. Then he hears the word tapa. No? So understanding it to be the instruction of the Lord, inspired by the Lord, he gets this understanding, and he performs penance for 1000 demigod years. And in text 9, we see that the Lord is pleased, and the Lord manifests his personal abode. Brahmaji is able to see Vaikuntha, and all the inhabitants of the Vaikuntha planet, they all seem to look very similar to the Lord in hue and appearance, and above the planet he sees many Vaikuntha planes hovering, and there are many Mahatmas probably just landing in the Vaikuntha Loka. And then he sees Lakshmi Devi, who is serving the lotus feet of the Lord, and she is also singing the glories of the Lord in Kirtan. And zooming in further, he sees the Lord himself surrounded by his servants like Nanda, Sunanda, Prabala and Arhana. Text 16 onwards, there is the description close up, level of zooming becomes more and more and more, the planets with the airplanes around, and then go close up, you see Lakshmi Devi, and then close up, you see the Lord on the Vyasasana, on the throne. The Lord is sitting on the throne, and there is a beautiful description of the Lord. The Lord is there on his throne, and he is surrounded by the 25 items required for material creation as personifications, and they are all there serving the Lord. So basically the Lord shows the blueprint of how creation has to happen, because the material world is created as a copy of the spiritual world. And the Lord also shows what are the ingredients needed, because the 25 elements are also seen by Lord Brahma, who are at the service of the Lord. And text 19, I was very amused that the Lord shook hands with Nārada. That was very, usually we see like as soon as they see the Lord, they offer dandavat pranam, and then the Lord touches their head with his conch or something, like that. So, and then they offer prayers. But this interaction was very different, because the Lord shook hands with Brahma and asked Brahma to seek any blessing he would want. So Brahma asks 4 questions, and the Lord answers those 4 questions, and these 4 answers form the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam. And the 4 questions Brahmaji asks are you would like to know about the material and spiritual forms of the Lord. You are absolutely spiritual, but sometimes it looks like you are appearing in the material world. How is it so? And he wanted to know how his energies are working, because he has to work with them for creation. And he wants to understand how the Lord's pastimes are related to his energy. And then the last question, very important question is, he asked for guidance in his service of creation, so that he will do his service without pride, deviation, or any kind of bondage. So he requests these 4 things. And from verse 33 onwards, we have the Chatusloki Bhagavatam, Krishna's 4 answers. So 33, the Lord says, I existed before creation, I will exist during creation, and I will exist after this creation is annihilated. That means I exist beyond this material existence. And in 34, the Lord says, to think that there is something that exists which has no relationship to me, that is called as Maya. And these 2 are called as Sambandha Gyan. There is this beautiful lecture by His Grace Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, available on YouTube. So there's a lot of a nice overview of Canto 2 is there. You can listen to that. And verse 35, relationship between the Lord and his energy. So the Lord says, I exist everywhere, and the pure devotees are able to see me everywhere because their eyes are anointed with love. By the vision of love, they are able to see me everywhere. So this is prayojana, the ultimate goal. And the last question is, how can I do my service without being entangled or feeling proud? So, and this question is answered by the Lord in verse 36. He says that you have to directly or indirectly keep inquiring from the authorities. Yeah, that is the process, abhideya. So in those 4 verses, Chatusloki Bhagavatam, Krishna gives guidance to Brahma on how to create the material world as a devotional service. So after that, the Lord disappears, and Brahma starts his creation, and Nārada is created also. And then Nārada is inquiring from Lord Brahma. So this is where we are. You know, we are coming here. The great sage Nārada also inquired in detail from his father Brahmā, the great grandfather of all universe, after seeing him well satisfied. So we can see that Nārada in verse 41, we see that so desires welfare, no, 41. Nārada, the most dear of the inherited sons of Brahma, always ready to serve his father, strictly follows the instructions of his father by his mannerly behavior, meekness, and self-control. So those are the qualities exhibited by Nārada that very much pleased his father. That is our yesterday's verse. And he desired to know all about the energies of Vishnu, the master of all energies. For Nārada was the greatest of all sages and greatest of all devotees. So after exhibiting what is an appropriate behavior for a disciple, then he questions. Pariprachnena sevaya. Now he is now prashna. After serving and surrendering, he asks question, just like how Brahma asked questions and how Lord gave answers. Similarly, now Nārada is asking question and Brahma is going to give answers. And then Brahma will say, now you take this answer and you spread the message of the Lord. And like that, the parampara system is formed. So from this verse, we can make a very elaborate checklist of who is a bona fide guru and who is a bona fide disciple. So in this verse, Prabhupada points out many things about the qualities of a bona fide spiritual master. So first thing is that he is not a paid agent. So if we are in search of spiritual knowledge, and if somebody says, you have to pay me this much money to get this knowledge, then we can already understand that we are dealing with somebody who wants to cheat us, because spiritual master is not a paid agent. Why cannot a spiritual master be paid? Because what he is going to give us is beyond anything the money can buy. You cannot put all the money of this world, all the wealth of this world to get what the spiritual master is going to give. So there is actually not possible to give some payment to obtain knowledge from the spiritual master. So he is not a paid agent. And then he is not giving information. A spiritual master is not giving information. So what is he giving? Srila Prabhupada says he shares realized knowledge. Information means 2 times 2 is 4. Something that you hear and you can memorize and you can tell others. But realized knowledge means this is something that comes as a blessing of having served someone. So that becomes the next thing in the list. Srila Prabhupada says, a spiritual master is authorized to impart this transcendental knowledge. It is not that he can whimsically just say, I'm going to give you some spiritual, now I am giving you some knowledge. He is authorized. What it is, when we say somebody is authorized, we do not mean that they have some kind of like a diploma in becoming a guru, or he has attended some degree, and it is not that kind of authorization. What Srila Prabhupada mentions as authorization is, he has strictly been obedient to his authority and thus pleased him. Just like how Lord Brahmā was very strictly following the instructions of Krishna and did very severe penance for 1,000 years of demigods. And Krishna says, that is the most pleasing to me. His Guru Maharaj said, yes, I am very pleased with you. Then I am giving you the knowledge. And Nārada exhibited, he was meek, obedient, humble, and he pleased Brahmā, and that is how he got his knowledge. So if somebody wants to be a guru, first he should be a person who has pleased his own spiritual master. And like that he has obtained the spiritual knowledge. Because that is the only way by which transcendental knowledge can be obtained. Prabhupada says you cannot obtain transcendental knowledge by simply becoming a grammarian. Just to learn, I know all the rules of Sanskrit. I know all the rules of, I know so many slokas, I have memorized so many things. These things will mount to nothing unless you have strictly obeyed the instructions of your spiritual master and you have pleased him. So that is the next qualification of a guru, that he is authorized to impart spiritual knowledge, and authorized means he has an authority whom he has very strictly followed. And then Prabhupada is quoting Nectar of Devotion, verse 1, Vacho Veham Manasa Krodha Vegam. He is able to control his senses. He is able to control his speaking, anger, tongue, mind, belly, genitals, all these senses that fall in one line. And he is able to keep them all in line. He is able to control them all. So only if he is self-controlled like that, he becomes a good disciple. And when he is a good disciple, eventually he will become a good spiritual master. Only he is qualified to make a disciple. A person who does not become a Goswami, a person who does not have Vacho Veham, Manasa Krodha Veham, he is not qualified to take disciples. Then there is a longer list of qualifications of a disciple given in this purport. And a disciple is one who is eager to hear from a realized person. Yeah, he is not looking for something cheap. He is looking for spiritual knowledge. There are places where we can go to get plastic beads, and there are places we go to get diamonds. So this person is looking for diamond. He is looking for something genuine, and that is what is going to lead him to a person who is genuine. And another quality is he is surrendered. When he finds this genuine person, he surrenders to him, and he does service to him, and he inquires humbly. Pariprashnena tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. And he satisfies his spiritual master. He has to, Brahmā was satisfied with Nārada, and that is why Nārada was able to assimilate the knowledge. It is, anybody can hear, but in order for the process to work, both the parties should be bona fide. If the guru is a cheater, or if the disciple is insincere, then the connection is not going to be true. If you are looking for something cheap, and you like a plastic bead, and if you enter into a diamond shop, you are going to be shocked by what you have to pay for getting it. And if you are actually looking for diamond, and if you come across a person who is only having plastic beads, you will not be satisfied. So you should be looking for diamond, and the person who is giving should be a vendor of diamond, and only then it is a satisfying business. Sometimes Prabhupada says, he uses the word business, of course it's used in the sense of a transaction, an exchange. So if you want that exchange of spirituality to be genuine, the disciple should satisfy the spiritual master, because only when the spiritual master is satisfied, the transcendental knowledge gets assimilated. Assimilated. One is ingestion, one is assimilation. Ingestion means you're hearing it. Assimilation means you're actually absorbing it. It goes into your system. And realizing means you're actually able to live like that. So a realized person is someone who lives Bhagavatam. He knows the instructions of Bhagavatam, and he can live exactly like those instructions. He's a person Bhagavatam. So when you please a person Bhagavatam, he not only gives you the knowledge, but by pleasing him, you get the ability to assimilate it. Assimilate is like digestion, something like eating, and then the food is digested, and then the digested food nourishes you. That happens in our body. Similarly, when you approach a bona fide spiritual master, the spiritual knowledge is given to us, and then it is assimilated, it becomes accessible, and then it becomes a realized knowledge. And Prabhupada quotes this verse, Yasya deve para bhaktir. Only unto one who has unflinching devotion to the Lord and to the spiritual master does the transcendental knowledge become automatically revealed. So that is the realization. So getting it, assimilating it, realizing it. So how do we realize it? Unflinching devotion to the Lord and the spiritual master. So that enhances the process of realization. So you have to hear from a realized person to get the correct nutrient, get the correct food. And then you have to satisfy him, please him, so that whatever you have got is assimilated. It goes into your system. And then you have to have unflinching faith both to the Lord and the spiritual master, so that it becomes realized knowledge. So we can all, and of course Prabhupada quotes the previous verse which shows the qualities of Nārada, which pleased Lord Brahmā. He was well behaved, he was meek, obedient, self-controlled. All these qualities of Nārada pleased Lord Brahmā. And that is how Nārada became qualified disciple. So there is this extensive list of how we can identify somebody as a qualified spiritual master, and how we can identify ourselves as a sincere disciple. And both of them should be there. And only then any kind of spiritual relationship can happen. So in the next topic that Prabhupada speaks in this verse is relationship. What is the nature of the relationship between such a spiritual master and a disciple? The relationship is eternal. If your spiritual master is not anymore visible to you, he has disappeared from this material world, even like that, that relationship is going to remain forever and ever. And it is real. This relationship is real. There is no intention of cheating each other. You are not going looking for some cheap plastic. He is not selling you fake diamonds. Both of you are genuinely looking for what is real. So there is no cheater or there is no cheated. The relationship is real. And it is not just real, it is going to last forever. So we know who is a bona fide guru, who is a bona fide disciple, and when they come together, what kind of relationship they have. And then Srila Prabhupada explains what is the result of such a relationship. The result of such a relationship is one who is now a disciple is the next spiritual master. So that is the purpose of getting spiritual knowledge. So that after we assimilate it, after we become realized, we will spread the message. We will take it upon ourselves to further the message of the Lord. That is the purpose of material creation. The material creation is meant for all the conditioned souls to get realization of God and to go back to Godhead. The material world is created only for that purpose. So when we come across a bona fide spiritual master, when we have assimilated, realized that knowledge, and when we have established an eternal real relationship with him, then the spiritual master will order, just like Lord Brahmā is going to tell Nārada, now you go and spread the message. And Nārada will go and explain to Vyasa, and then the whole parampara system comes. We have all the way to Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual masters and all the devotees, and we are all bound by this. If we have a genuine relationship with Srila Prabhupada, we are bound by this fact that we have to also take up this duty of spreading the message. That is the result of having a bona fide relationship with the spiritual master. And sometimes it's very unfortunate, that sometimes people think that Srila Prabhupada is the first person, it's the first ever edition of Bhagavad-gītā where Prabhupada shows how Bhagavad-gītā, his version of the Bhagavad-gītā that he is presenting is not his version, but it is Bhagavad-gītā as it is. If you open the beginning pages, first pages, you will see from Krishna all the way to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada. He says this is parampara. If the knowledge should be accepted in parampara. Means I received it from my Guru Maharaj, and from my Guru Maharaj received from his Guru Maharaj, and his Guru Maharaj from his Guru Maharaj. And then whatever knowledge I have to give it to my disciples. And then they have to take it to their disciples. And then those disciples to their disciples. But unfortunately, we see this situation where people are minimizing the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. Even though he is the only person who has quoted a parampara system, and he is writing in the introduction to Bhagavad-gītā, if at all I have any credit, the only credit I have is that I am a disciple of my spiritual master. This is a service to my spiritual master. I don't have any qualification. Whatever I am speaking is all the blessings of my spiritual master. So, and Prabhupada repeatedly in many places, including this verse, he says, one who is now a disciple is the next spiritual master. So he is a prophet. He is an empowered incarnation. And we as disciples, we as followers of Srila Prabhupada should be very careful not to do the same mistakes that people who are followers of other prophets did. They take up, they mess up for their own agenda, and that skews up the whole purpose. Jesus never claimed, I am God. The beginning years of Christianity, reincarnation was very much part of the religion. But what did they do? For their own purpose, they messed it up. They changed things for political reasons, for power and position and money. They changed the teachings of the Acharya. And what do we have now? A messed up religion, which is very difficult for people to. I was working in Belgium and it was Christmas. So then I thought, oh, okay, it's Jesus Christ, Son of the Lord, birthday, so we need to go and offer respects. And I was shocked when I went to the church, it was empty. Nobody was there, not even the priest was there, I was like, what is happening? But if you came out of the church, there was party going on everywhere. Everybody was buying gifts. There was alcohol, there was meat, and there was, the purpose of the celebration is lost. Why did the teachings get lost? Because somebody had a different agenda. So our responsibility is very big. We are very, very close to Srila Prabhupada's time. So we have this responsibility of carrying his teachings as it is. If Srila Prabhupada says, one who is now a disciple is the next spiritual master. And if Srila Prabhupada repeatedly has said that knowledge is transmitted in parampara, and if somebody is going to tell Prabhupada is the final Acharya for the next 10,000 years, we are actually telling Prabhupada does not have the power to empower people. Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj empowered him, and Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj empowered him. If all the Acharyas are able to empower to produce pure devotees, Prabhupada, who is the Senapati Bhakta of Lord Gauranga, he is the commander-in-chief of Lord Gauranga's army. How can he not have the power to empower and produce so many more gurus? So when we are actually saying that Srila Prabhupada is the last Acharya for the next 10,000 years, it's not a glorification of Prabhupada. What we are actually doing is we are telling Prabhupada does not have the empowerment. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada was able to create pure devotee Srila Prabhupada. His Guru Maharaj was able to create a pure devotee. Why could Srila Prabhupada, why do we have to accept that Srila Prabhupada can't create pure devotees? And if Prabhupada can create pure devotees, why can't they be accepted as spiritual masters? So the current generation has a big war to fight. And we are morally obliged, we are spiritually indebted to Srila Prabhupada that we will stop that, this kind of wrong propagation. And we will bring back those, of course Srila Prabhupada is super merciful, he wouldn't want us to take guns and shoot people, he would say, even though he sometimes say, our symbol will be sickle, whoever doesn't follow, we will just take sickle. But he never defeated anyone by violence. Yeah? He simply defeated them by his pure love for Krishna. So we have to extend it, and we have to defeat this ideology that is, not ideology, a speculative thought which comes purely because of some political, financial, envious motive. We need to defeat it, we need to stop it, so that whatever happened in the history before doesn't happen with us, with the teachings of our Srila Prabhupada. So we are morally obliged to do that as a service to Srila Prabhupada. So summarizing, we saw a chapter overview and of how Lord Brahma pleases his spiritual master and gets instructions for creation, and then how Lord Brahma is creating, and then Nārada is the son of Brahma, and Nārada pleases Brahma with his behavior, and then he inquires from Brahma. So this verse basically is saying that Nārada started inquiring from Brahma, and this forms the basis of Visarga, the secondary creation. How Brahma creates all the other, everything else comes, how he uses the spiritual planet as the blueprint to create the material world. That is how it's going to progress. And Prabhupada gives an extensive list of qualities of a spiritual master. Prabhupada gives a very extensive list of qualities of a disciple. Prabhupada says what is the nature of relation between such a bona fide spiritual master and a disciple. It is eternal and real. And what is the result of such a relationship? The result is that one who is a disciple now will be the next spiritual master. And we talked about the importance of maintaining these teachings of Srila Prabhupada and not allowing people to mess up with his instructions, so that for the next 10,000 years, the future generations are truly benefit. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If there are any comments or questions. Hare Krishna. Without the mic, yes.
In the life of Bilva Thakur, he was a completely unqualified person who was approaching a very unqualified person who are very unsavory goods. Somehow Krishna appeared and transformed the whole situation, where he even writes in one of his verses that tuṣṭaṁ was his guru. So can you please explain a little bit about these exceptional cases where there was not a bona fide disciple, there wasn't a bona fide guru, but nonetheless,
That is, the question is, Bilva Mangal Thakur was not a bona fide disciple. He describes Chintamani, the prostitute whom he would go to visit, as his spiritual master. And Prabhuji's question is, neither of them were bona fide, but Bilva Mangal Thakur is accepted as a bona fide Vaishnava. So, and that is the nature of a transparent via media. That is the nature of spiritual knowledge. When Srila Prabhupada says, there is a postman, and there is somebody here who is having some big money that he sends by money order. In olden days in India that used to exist, you can send money by post. It's called a money order. So Prabhupada says, somebody very rich is sending some big money, and then that money is reaching this other person for whom this is meant. And in between there's a postman, who's a pauper. He has nothing. But he will take that money from that rich man and bring that money order to this poor person. He is also rich now, he is also rich. But this in-between person still has his torn slippers and ripped clothes. So that is the nature of transparent via media. We don't have to have any personal qualification to deliver the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. All we have to do is simply repeat what our acharyas are saying. There is Subhog Maharaj in his lectures, invariably that statement will come. I am not saying anything by myself. I am simply repeating what Srila Prabhupada says. We have to simply be that transparent via media. You can be a prostitute, you can be anybody. But if what she said, instead of being so attached to me, that's what Chintamani said, instead of being so attached to me, if you had shown this attachment to the Lord, you would have become a great devotee. And that is a transcendental message. And because she acted as a transparent via media, it went through. And he was able to get that, the richness was transferred to him. Because she acted as a transcendental via media. And that is all is needed. We don't have to have anything except for this mindset that I am simply repeating the words of my Guru Maharaj. And that will be enough to make anybody devotee, because the potency is not coming from our purity. The potency is in the message itself. All we have to do is deliver it as it is. Is that okay, Prabhu? Thank you. Hare Krishna.
While the so-called formality is the relation between the cheater and the cheated. So can you explain what is this so-called formality that I can understand?
There are so many formalities that are involved between a cheater and cheated. You have to pay money maybe, and sometimes they say the spiritual master will put his hand on your head and you will get an electric shock kind of thing, and like that the knowledge is transferred. And so many crazy things. You have to close your eyes and meditate. Srila Prabhupada says often, if somebody claims that he is an incarnation of Vishnu, you should ask them to show the Virat Roop. So there is this famous guy who calls himself as an incarnation of Vishnu, and some of my family members, they were following him somehow, some kind of want to be cheated and cheater, the relationship was there. Then I simply asked, can he show the Virat Roop? And this relative actually said, he can show the Virat Roop if you're pure enough, This is all just simply like simply cheating, so there is a lot of things involved like that, and none of it is bona fide. Any kind of cheater and cheater relationship also has a whole load of rituals involved, but none of them is pure. The only ritual that is correct is that you go to your spiritual master, fall at his feet, and you say, dear spiritual master, please accept me as your disciple. That is all is required as a ritual. You don't need even a yagya. If your Guru Maharaj says yes, that's it. And if you don't have that blessing, then you need to just go on haranguing him. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur finally said, I'm going to go and jump in Jalangi. Finish. You're not accepting me, I'm just jumping in. So that is all is needed. Them to accept you as a disciple and give an instruction. So everything else between a cheater and cheated, lot of things will be there, which is required for the people who want to be cheated. They need all those artificial affirmations, like I have paid, so it's going to work, or I've got an electric shock through my whatever, or he showed some ashes from his hand. So when these things are happening, this is what is needed for the cheated person to feel that he is getting something nice, So Prabhupada says they are meaningless. Is that okay? Prabhuji, you had your... It has happened in ISKCON that we have had devotees, sannyasis, and then they leave after some time and they have left big wounds, and even when the wounds heal, we have scars. And we have generations of youth that go away from our movement, go away from Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada is, ISKCON is the ship, Prabhupada is the captain. And anybody who is there in the ship are all under the captainship of Srila Prabhupada. And we can say that the regulative principles are the walls of whatever we call of the ship. You know that we don't fall, if like the border of the ship, so that we don't, yes, hull of the ship, so that nobody falls out of it. And when we break those regulative principles, we fall down back into the ocean of material existence. And we are lost. And the rules of the ship don't apply in the ocean. Your spiritual master is not going to come and say, here is your prasad, did you sleep, is the ship clean? Whoever is in the ship is taking part in all those activities. But if you break the hull and fall out into the ocean, the rules of the ocean only apply to you. So it may not be that they came with the intention of cheating, but it is possible that they became weak and they broke the hull and fell down. If they are sorry and if they beg to Srila Prabhupada and if they are trying to make amends, he is the most merciful captain. He might pick them up back into the ship. But that's not for us to decide, you know. We cannot simply say, he fell down, I'm not the captain. All I know is this guy he broke the hull and fell down, that's all, you know. And he has gone back into the material existence. Some weakness, something happened, you know. Could be because of some offenses we committed to devotees, could be because of lack of proper understanding of scriptures, pratishtha, puja, so many things are there that always allure us, you know. In one class, Pankajangri Prabhu was telling, Krishna consciousness is not a one-time decision. I want to become a devotee. Today, if you think like that, that does not mean that you have become a devotee. Each and every step of our life, we should always make a conscious choice, because it is a choice that we have to, it is a choice that is left to us in each and every step. You want to be a devotee or you want to choose Krishna or Maya, Krishna or Maya. I'm choosing Krishna. Now you are in the next step. Just because you chose Krishna before does not mean here the option is closed. Again Maya will ask, do you want to be with Krishna or you want to come to me? And you have to walk each and every step of your life choosing Krishna. Any one place you choose wrongly, then you are falling out of the hull. No? And you need to repent and amend and apologize if you want to come back into the ship where Prabhupada is the captain. Is that okay, Prabhupada? Prabhuji, you had a question.
I was thinking about this answer about tuṣṭaṁ. You mentioned that if you repeat the message has the power itself and do not need to have a power. The message here, it's big. But before that, you mentioned that Nārada, when he was using his paripapraccha by these qualities, it seems like there's a difference between the two situations. Can you explain that? Somebody is really satisfied, fully engaging himself with someone not really following but repeating the message.
Well, these are all cases of exception. This is not the rule. Like we have the story of Ajamil. He was a Brahmana, fell down, had like so many children. Then his last son he named Narayan, and he was in the deathbed. And then he sees Yamadutas, the messengers of death, and they have terrifying form. So out of fear, he called out for his most attached person, which is his son Narayan. And because he called Narayan in a simple, without any offense, Namabha stage, the Vishnu Dutas came, the messengers of the Lord, and they made the messengers of death go away. And then Ajamil was given a second chance, and he practiced devotion, and he went back to Godhead. So this does not become the norm for a devotee, that I will live a life like this and then I will name my son Narayan and I'll try to call, that's not the norm. These are all exceptions to show the potency of spiritual practice. But the norm is that you have to be qualified as a spiritual master, and you have to be qualified as a disciple, and you should have a relationship, and that will give a result. That is the rule. And all these cases of Chintamani and Ajamil, they are all exceptions, just to show that even without all this, sometimes the spiritual process can, just to increase our faith in the spiritual process of bhakti. There are exceptions. Yeah. Thank you. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.